Hey, what is going on? This is your daily stimulus check update information. Looks like 2 checks of $1,400 is being proposed by the Banking Committee in Congress. Plus, there is this big states that are sending out stimulus checks. More states are sending out more stimulus. Plus, all the fourth stimulus check that's probably going to be coming in this new infrastructure bill. There was an infrastructure bill passed in Senate, $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. This is going to be going out there and help people get jobs. It's this giant jobs plan. And then Nancy Pelosi has the $3.5 trillion budget plan. That is going to be the American Families Plan. And I think that's going to be the new fourth stimulus check. Plus, they want to extend out a lot of the other programs out there. And I'm going to cover a lot of those details in this video for you because there is so much information happening right now. We're coming up on the month of September, and September is going to be the month where a lot of these things are going to be closing off, and Congress is going to try to extend out a lot of these stimulus packages that have been in place since the American Rescue Plan was signed back in March. Plus, every week there's more money that's going out by the Treasury. They're sending out payments every week. There are still a lot of people that are still getting stimulus checks even today from the American Rescue Plan that still needs to be going out. So they have to cover this other $25 billion before they can really kind of ramp up and get this fourth stimulus check going. So I want to cover some of those details for you in this stimulus package. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. That way you get notified of all the videos that I come out with. Then you won't miss any of them. So the status of the 2021 stimulus checks. This is the American Rescue Plan that was signed back in March, the $1,400 payments. Now there is talk of a fourth stimulus check, but it has to go through Congress. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, all the Democrats have to create a bill that has something in it to where people get more checks. And that's what they're trying to work on right now. I think they have to try to sneak it through because the Republicans aren't going to support another stimulus check right now. But right now, the Treasury, the IRS is still sending out checks on a monthly basis. They're sending out checks to people that filed their returns in 2020. If you had a 2019 that was a good year, but 2020 was not a very good year, then what they're going to do is they're going to send you a plus up payment. So it'll be a payment to try to catch you up to that $1,400 level. So you might receive a payment in your bank account, or you might receive a check. But every week, the IRS is depositing checks into people's bank accounts. I always try to encourage people to try to get a bank account if you can. I know it's tough sometimes if you can't. There are a lot of good online banks that you can set up using the App Store, Google Play Store or App Store. You can get an online bank. Why? Because the Treasury deposits that money quickly into your bank account. It's just the easiest way. When they do checks, they got to print them, they got to mail them. It can take 3 or 4 weeks in order to get those checks out. And I want to make sure you get your check out quickly. Now, as far as moving forward is the next checks, this is something that the Congress is going to have to pass the infrastructure bill. They're going to have to pass the budget plan, and in that, possibly a fourth round of stimulus check. I think a lot of it depends on whether this whole Delta variant becomes bigger and that some of these states are going to lock down their economies again, or if the president says there's going to be a lockdown mandate like before. If they do that, they're going to have to send out another stimulus check. So I think lockdowns don't work, and I think they're crazy because they're forcing businesses to shut down, and then people can't go to work and can't work. I think getting people to work is a better stimulus than actually the federal government closing down those businesses and then giving people money. It just doesn't make any sense. But it's good news for a lot of the different states. California right now is starting to send out stimulus checks. Remember, every state in the United States received billions of dollars from the American Rescue Plan. So if you're in a state right now and they're not sending out stimulus checks, it's because the governors in that state, I don't know if they want to not send out stimulus checks or they just feel like they don't need to send out stimulus checks. But California has said, yes, we need to send out stimulus checks. So everybody that qualified for the federal stimulus checks is going to get a $600 stimulus check in California, $500 for dependents. Colorado is also another state that's going to be sending out stimulus checks, $375 in Colorado. Maryland, they're going to be sending out $500 to families and $300 for individuals. This is the earned income tax credit. New Mexico is going to be sending out $750 checks to around 4,000 families. Now, New Mexico received $1.8 billion, and they're only sending out $5 million to residents. Seems a little they could be sending out a lot more. I think they could send out a ton more money. Florida also is sending out $1,000 payments. Now, Florida has also sending out payments to teachers, to administrators, but they're also sending out to frontline workers, EMTs, police, firemen, all of that. So that's good news for Florida. Looks like they're sending out a lot more payments than other states. Georgia is sending out $1,000 payments to teachers. Michigan sent out $500. New York, looks like they have a big budget that's ready to be sent out. Tennessee, another state, $1,000 to teachers. Texas, it looks like they're sending out a lot of stimulus to teachers. Personally, I'm not understanding why these states are targeting teachers. I feel like every state should have a stimulus check going out to everybody in those areas, because they closed down these businesses, and the businesses shut down. People couldn't go to work. They couldn't get payments, and so those are the people that really need it the most. I don't really understand the whole teacher thing. I get it if you're a teacher, obviously you were affected by it, but there's so many other people that were affected by the shutdown of businesses. But that's just my opinion on it. I just don't understand it. I don't get it. But hopefully some more of these states will take some of that money they received from the federal government and turn around and pay their people in that area, because a lot of these governors, like especially California, locked down their economies for like a year. I mean, it just totally affected everybody in that area as far as getting payments. It's just crazy. But we'll see if moving forward if those states will start to get more money going out to everybody. So there is these lawmakers that have come up with a plan to try to get 2 stimulus checks out, if you can believe it, 2 $1,400 checks. Now what this is President Biden is trying to get the corporate tax rate up to 28% from the 21%. And so what this says is that if they can do this, that the tax expert American Enterprise Institute told NBC the tax changes could raise $800 billion just by raising the 28% corporate rate on corporations. So that's enough money for the government to finance 2 more $1,400 stimulus checks, similar to the ones most Americans received in the $1.9 trillion Biden stimulus law during. Personally, I don't think that raising taxes on businesses is good. I don't think you can do that, because businesses can't compete with other countries. They can't compete with China and places like that, so it's tough. So a lot of these businesses, they just pack up and leave. And packing up and leave and moving to a different country is not good for the people in America. And so if they really want to keep people employed and keep people moving forward, they shouldn't be taxing corporations. But again, some of these Democrats, they don't see it that way. They've never run a business before. They've never had employees that they've paid out, but they would rather just tax the businesses that are here. And if literally all the businesses left America, who are you going to tax anymore? You can't tax the businesses anymore. So you got to be really careful that you're not overtaxing these businesses and moving them out of the country. But if they can get this 28% corporate rate, then it looks like they're going to try to raise $800 billion. They're trying to get President Biden to go along with this, and then they'll take the $800 billion and turn around and give out 2 $1,400 stimulus checks. Will it pass? I don't know, but there is a lot of talk and a lot of pressure on Congress to get these things done. There is this giant petition, close to 3 million signatures, to try to get a monthly payment sent out to everybody, $2,000 for adults and $1,000 for children. Again, this is just a signature. Is just a big petition to try to get Congress to do a monthly check. I personally think that they're going to have to come down to some type of universal basic income to support a lot of the people that were affected by the lockdowns of the economy. I think they're going to have to come out with some kind of way to do that. I've seen talk of the Federal Reserve coming out with some type of Fed Now coin. It's a stable coin that they might drop an app into your phone. You take that phone and you can go out there and spend it. That is a possibility, and I don't know if they're working on that in the background, but I did see that Jerome Powell, who was he is the Federal Reserve chairman, he has said that they might come out with some type of stable coin to compete with a lot of the other stable coins out there right now. So it looks like if you do have a child in 2020, you're eligible for the stimulus check. I know that American Rescue Plan was done back in March, but they have said that if you do have a child in 2021, that you'll be eligible for both the $1,400 check and the child tax credit. That is pretty good news. The only way you can do that, though, is you have to file your returns in 2022 of next year for 2020. If you do that, you can claim your $1,400 check, but you're just going to have to wait until next year. So if you do have a child this year, you can pick up that $1,400 and the child tax credit moving forward. So the child tax credit is $3,600 for newborns and up to 6 years old. And then between 6 and 17, it's a $3,000 check. So if you do have dependents that you added to your returns for 2022, if you add your children on there, then you'll get that $3,600 or the $3,000. Now, what they're doing right now is they're actually cutting that $3,600 in half, and they're dividing that up over monthly periods up until December. So starting in July, on the 15th of every month, it was a $300 check going out every month. So next month in September 15th, then a $300 check will be sent out to people in that area. President Biden, he looks like he's canceled over $9 billion in student loan debt, which is crazy. That's a crazy amount. I guess there was a big ITT Technical Institute that went defunct. He canceled all that and refunded all the people that were involved in that. This is something that I think is going to be a precursor to maybe getting more student loan debt paid off or just pretty much canceled. He was talking about $10,000, up to $10,000 in student loan debt canceled during his campaign, but it looks like he has not pushed that forward. I haven't heard too much from Elizabeth Warren, who is a big proponent of canceling the education and the debt. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know how they're going to do that. If they're going to cancel that debt and then moving forward, nobody can get any more loans out. I don't know how they're going to do that, but it looks like he has canceled $9 billion in student loan debts. Also, the unemployment benefits are going to end on the September 16th. This is something that was passed in the American Rescue Plan, and I think they're going to come forward this month and try to get that extended out through maybe the end of the year. The moratoriums for evictions is also going to be kicking back in. They tried to extend it through the October 3rd, but Supreme Court came out and said that eviction process and all that can start up again. So that is something that is going to be coming down the road. So those of you that are on the unemployment, it may stop on September 6th. Usually when these things stop, Congress rallies up and they create some bill really quick to extend that out. But we haven't seen that yet, and we're going to have to wait for Nancy Pelosi to come up with some kind of bill. In the new budget plan, it might be a way for them to extend out these unemployment benefits and possibly extend out the child tax credit. In the budget bill is the American Families Plan, and they want to extend out the child tax credit out through the year 2025. So that means every month a child tax credit check would be sent out every month on the 15th to families that do have children. That would be in the American Rescue Plan. Hey, so if you have any questions about stimulus checks, you can drop those questions in the comments below. This is your daily stimulus check updated information for today.
Back to the Supreme Court now. The conservative majority has blocked the Biden administration's temporary ban on evictions. Weijia Jiang is here now to break this ruling down for us. Weijia, good morning. Is this a blow for the president at the hands of the high court?
I mean, you may remember that President Biden was not going to try to implement any additional measure to help people who were struggling to pay the rent, because he said, despite trying, despite the CDC looking for a legal path forward, there simply wasn't one. But there was mounting pressure from progressive lawmakers. You might remember Cori Bush, who was literally camped out on the steps of the Capitol because she was urging the administration to act. And, you know, at the end of the day, he said, I'm going to give this a shot, even though he acknowledged it was likely not going to pass constitutional muster. But the one thing that may have done is give some local and state jurisdictions more time to distribute funds that Congress had already approved. But it doesn't seem like they did that much with the time, quite frankly, because just yesterday we heard from the Treasury Department that only about $5.1 billion of the $46 billion already approved by Congress for rental assistance has gone out through the end of July. And so that's precisely what the administration, what President Biden will focus on now, is trying to get that money through, since it's just sitting there.
Sure. Well, first, President Biden would, of course, support congressional action to authorize an eviction moratorium, and the Supreme Court has now clearly outlined that as the sole way a moratorium could remain in effect. Now, at the same time, I think it's important to remember what our objective is here. Our objective is to keep as many people around the country in their homes as possible. Federal legislation is one way to do that. Obviously, the eviction moratorium we have had in place and we've been issuing month to month is one way to do that. But the ERA funding that came through the American Rescue Plan and is going out to states is another way to do that. And we have asked, and we have put out today, the Department of Treasury and the Secretary of HUD sent a letter calling on all governors, mayors, county officials to put in place their own moratoria. There are 7 states across the country who have done that. It has the same impact, right? Because it is preventing people from being kicked out of their homes, and these states have the funding, thanks to the American Rescue Plan, to get that done.
0.5 million Americans are expected to lose unemployment benefits by Labor Day. The $300 weekly payments are expected to expire September 6th. Of the $6 trillion that the U.S. government has put towards stimulus packages since the start, $567 billion have been paid out in unemployment. According to the last jobs report, the unemployment rate fell to 5.4% in July with the creation of 4 million jobs.